Basketball season is upon us. Will Montana State and Eastern Washington defend their tournament titles, or will we crown a new champion? The road to Boise begins now. Welcome to Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off presented by Idaho Central Credit Union. Welcome into Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. This episode is all about Northern Colorado. Last season, the Bears finished second in the Big Sky, and they enter 2024 with high expectations, as they were voted number 3 in the preseason coaches polls. With me now to discuss the upcoming season is head coach Steve Smiley and graduate guard Jaron Riley. You finished second in the Big Sky regular season standings last season. How does that set a solid foundation for the 24-25 season?
I think probably like in years past, it would say, okay, it just kind of keeps moving forward. I do think that in this new world, I'm not sure if previous year's success is completely indicative of the following year. So just because we have such new teams now we're very fortunate that we have 7 returners. We have 3.5 starters back. Obviously, Jaron, Zach, and then Brock started a huge chunk of the games, if not all, and then Langston Reynolds started a little bit as well. So to have some continuity and some retention is great, and then having some good players coming back. But even with that being said, it's just hard to say. I mean, I think back in the day, you'd think that you'd have a ton of, you won last year, so you'll go right into this year. But I think our teams are so new that it's tough to say that, hey, just because we were second last year, that we should be there again. I think you have to earn it every single day.
Jaron, coach mentioned there's a lot of newness in your locker room. How are you using your experience to bring these new guys in and set the standard for them?
Yeah, I mean, as far as everyone getting along, it's been pretty easy this year. We have a pretty easygoing group. Everyone likes each other, and we hang out with each other all the time. And then, as far as on the court, like he was saying, we have 7 returners and 3.5, 4 guys that played a lot of minutes. So,
Coach, you yourself, since arriving in Greeley, have had 10 former players go pro. Why do you think you're so successful at developing players to play at the next level?
Well, I think they have to have a certain level of talent, first of all. So I think in the recruiting world, you've got to find talent. But I think kind of that success just that starts to pile on top of each other. When kind of the first pro that we had when Coach Linder was here, Andre Spite, when he went to the pros, and then that kind of opened the door for Jordan Davis, who was a Big Sky Player of the Year, and then he had a chance to go to the pros, and that kind of opened the door for Jonah Radaba to get over to Spain eventually, and I think it just kind of now it's gotten to a point where I do think that the professional level, specifically Europe, but also some other levels, and now with Dalton connected in the NBA, but I think it's kind of given us some credibility that we're doing a good job developing these guys, but also too, I think the way that we play, we've always tried to structure the way that we play similar to professional levels, specifically probably the FIBA system and the European system. And so what's happened is, as our guys have gotten the opportunity to go over there, they've been successful. We've always talked about one of our secret weapons is how we utilize and implement film, not only from a team perspective, but on the player level. That's been a big piece of it too.
I'll get your perspective on the film use, Jaron. How does that help you develop your game?
I mean, like you were saying, it's really important. Being able to see your own mistakes, things you're doing well, things of that nature. Being able to watch as a team. We watch film just about every day as a team. So if you're not learning from your own mistakes or your own well-doings, you're learning from someone else's. So you hopefully don't do the same things. And then even like we've been watching some of the Olympic basketball stuff from this past summer. So just all stuff like that, just pulling things from different places to try to become the best product that you and your team can be.
After the break, hear from the UNC women's team.
In the heart of Montana's untamed wilderness, a legend is brewing. Jeremiah Johnson Brewing, the official beer of the Big Sky Conference. brewed with the rugged spirit of the West. Jeremiah Johnson is simply a world-class, straightforward, no-nonsense beer. Do well.
Welcome back to Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. Head coach Krista Matteo has built a solid foundation during her short time in Greeley. Her Bears have finished in the top half of the conference every year she's been at the helm. I'd like to welcome her in now alongside point guard Gabby Fields. You had immediate success when you took over in Greeley 4 seasons ago. How do you think that laid the foundation for your program?
Well, I mean, I guess you say immediate success. We still feel like there's a lot of, growth that we can have as a team, but it started with bringing in the right people and the right players. We have Gabby here on this media show with us, and, finding the right players allowed us to lay the foundation for what we wanted, for who we are as a program, as a person. And, obviously having players that buy in and work hard in our system and what we're doing. And then a great coaching staff too. So it involves a lot of people. It's not just one person. It's constantly painting the vision. And, ultimately last year too, playing in the WNIT, which was postseason for us. And we just want to continue to build and grow off of those experiences.
Gabby, coach just mentioned having the right players to build this program. You committed as a junior in high school to Northern Colorado. What made you want to play for the Bears?
Well, just my conversations with this staff, I knew that they had a vision and they believed in me, and I really believed in what coach had planned and the success that she was wanting to bring to Greeley, and I just wanted to be a part of that. And getting out of Texas was a really cool opportunity, so I'm super pumped to, get this opportunity another year with how the portal is, to get to be here and be in Greeley and play for Coach Matteo and hopefully have some success this season.
Coach, you mentioned getting the opportunity to play in the WNIT last season. What did you learn about your team in that tournament that you can build upon entering 24-25?
Well, I think just a little motivation to, play beyond conference play. Ultimately, it's win a Big Sky championship. It's a play in the NCAA tournament. There are also other tournaments, though, in postseason play. It's very competitive to get into the NCAA tournament. So stepping stones for us. Growth and maturity as a team of knowing that, that there is basketball beyond just that tournament. And it took a year or two for our team to mature in that. And honestly, we had to have conversations as it got later in the season saying, hey, there are committees out there. They're watching us. They like the body of work. So we don't want a spring break, right? We want to be playing during spring break. And that's kind of the vision that we continue to communicate.
Gabby, coach just used the word mature when discussing the team. How do you think you've matured as a player during your time in Greeley?
I've had a lot of conversations with coach about this, and, coming in, I got to play a lot my freshman year, and there are two sides to that, but I think I've had to learn a lot and definitely grow through my mistakes, and that's been a great opportunity that I'm super grateful for, and I can definitely see it in my game and just as how I am with my teammates and my outlook of, the season. Like she said, it's a really long season. So I think being mature in that and being able to stay the course has been really important.
Coach Matteo, what growth have you seen in Gabby as a player?
Well, Gabby's right. We've talked about this quite a bit with her. When she was a freshman, we just threw her into the fire, and honestly, she did not have a lot of mentorship at that particular position, which is the point guard position for us. And so, we had another guard that was a 2 guard that we would slide over into the point spot. But she's been our starting point guard for us the past 2 years. So we put a lot on her shoulders, but, I'll give Gabby a lot of credit too. She's a worker. That's in her DNA. As a freshman, she was in the offices watching film, studying the game. It feels like she's much older than what she is. Knowing that she still has 2 years of basketball left is pretty cool.
This year, you guys face Colorado, Air Force, and Denver in non-conference play. Your volleyball team played those 3 teams plus Colorado State, won all of those games to sweep the Centennial State. What would it mean to you, Gabby, to play those 3 in-state rivals and get the wins like your volleyball team did?
I mean, it's a great opportunity ahead of us, getting to play some Power Five. So I'm super excited and to hopefully do something, continue to build on what volleyball has done for the UNC program and the UNC Bears. So it would mean everything to sweep the state.
There's no place like home. And obviously from the recruiting side is we want players to want to stay in state and play. So anytime we get to go head to head, I think it means a lot, not only to our own team, but to just in-state Colorado high school kids too. But it's just a great opportunity. Colorado has had a lot of success and played in NCAA tournament the last few years. Air Force is just right down the road. Denver is right down the road. We actually have great relationships with all those coaches. But when it's time to get on the court and play, that time is to go to battle. Volleyball, I thought, continues to have a great season that really laid the groundwork for the rest of us, which is us, men's basketball, as we get going to make sure that we hold up our end of the bargain too.
Coming up, Coulter Nuanez and Krista Redpath join the show to give us a breakdown of Big Sky basketball. Welcome back to Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson, joined now by two of our Big Sky basketball analysts, Krista Redpath and Coulter Nuanez. Guys, let's just get right to it. What were your initial thoughts on the Big Sky basketball preseason rankings? Coulter, I'll go to you first.
It's interesting when you analyze the men's league because there's so few returners these last couple of years. That's sort of a symptom of where we're at in Division I college basketball. But the one school that has had returners two off seasons in a row has been Montana, and I think that's reflected when you look at the polls. Last year they returned 6 guys, which is an unheard of number for mid-major teams, and this year they have a couple stalwarts coming back, led by Brandon Whitney, who's going to be sort of an unprecedented 5th-year starter there at Montana.
I wasn't shocked on the women's side. I really expected NAU to come out on top when you look at the fact that they played in the conference championship the last 3 years. They return a nucleus of players led by preseason MVP Sophie Glancy and also Leah Beatty at the guard position, returning both the Moran sisters, and you mix in a Taylor Feldman and a Sanaya Neverson. And I look at NAU just having that nucleus back, but also just a year of maturity under their belt. And so I wasn't shocked by that. I look at the Montana schools battling out, both Montana State and Montana. When you take a look at Montana State, they also were faced with injuries last year, but this year, with the transfer of Esmeralda Morales, as well as Lexi Deaton possibly coming back from this ACL, they're loaded. They're locked and loaded.
Montana State men have reached 3 consecutive NCAA tournaments after winning 3 Big Sky tournament titles. Who would be the dark horse on the men's side to maybe dethrone the Bobcats?
First of all, I thought it was interesting that Montana State got so much love in the preseason polls because they do lose a lot. Of course, they return Brian Garacki, they return Brandon Walker, but Robert Ford was the heart and soul of that team. So he's certainly going to be tough to replace. I actually probably would have said that Montana State would have been one of my dark horses if they weren't so highly rated in the preseason polls, but they got a whole bunch of respect in the preseason polls. One team that Krista and I actually previewed on our series Big Sky Hoops Hits 2 weeks ago is Northern Arizona on the men's side. I think that they have more continuity than a lot of the other teams in the league. You look at Trenton McLaughlin, who's leading returning scorer in the league, really, really talented guy. You look at Carson Tout, he's my kind of player. I mean, he's the guy that could fit in on every single team in the Big Sky Conference. He doesn't need to shoot it. He doesn't need to dribble it. He just sets screens and rebounds and plays defense. Northern Arizona, I know, was picked in the middle of the league, but I think they could definitely make some noise. They proved it last year. I mean, they beat every good team in the league at least once. They just have to figure out a way to sweep some of those good teams to get into that top third of the league standings.
Coulter, you just brought up Trent McLaughlin from NAU. He, of course, is the preseason MVP in the Big Sky. Krista, you mentioned Sophie Clancy, the women's MVP. I'll start with you, Krista. Did the voters get it right choosing those two Lumberjacks as our preseason MVPs?
Well, I think they definitely did. When you look at these players and what they have contributed to the Big Sky, and of course, I can allude to Sophie Clancy just being a force down low. I mean, she was a unanimous first team All Big Sky Conference selection last year. Her physical skills, strength, agility, quickness around the basket, she really separated herself.
On the men's side, I think you could have got a variety of different ways, but Trent McLaughlin certainly a worthy candidate, no doubt. It's a great story there at NAU too. First of all, they've poured a bunch of money into athletics, which I think is benefiting them a bunch. You've seen both their basketball programs get better, but also the McLaughlin brothers are one of the great stories in the Big Sky, right? Like Alex McLaughlin's one of the best football players in the conference. Trent, his older brother, one of the best basketball players in the conference. And you have to think that both those guys probably had opportunities to go elsewhere. They didn't because they're there together. That's a cool story. So hopefully that resonates with people.
Krista and Coulter, we know NAU women, Montana and Montana State men are the favorites in both the coaches and the media polls to win the Big Sky Conference this year. Krista, I will go to you first. Who are you picking to win the Big Sky Conference? Give me both your men's and women's picks.
Well, I definitely had NAU to win, with the Montana schools really coming in hot. And on the men's side as well, I think Coach DeCure has done a fantastic job bringing in some really great transfers, but also building around Brandon Whitney. I mean, he's one of the only Grizz players to average double figures for all 4 of his years playing for Montana, just a veteran guard. I also think with the transfer of Patterson from Sac State at the guard position, Montana definitely has all the weapons to look like they are in the forefront to win the Big Sky.
I picked Montana State. And the reason I picked Montana State is I think that Tricia Binford has established herself as the most consistent and best coach in the conference. I thought last year was one of her best coaching jobs. I remember a post that they had on their Instagram page of their bench celebrating, and their bench was KJ Lamardo and Taylor Jansen and Lexi Deedon and all these all-league caliber players that were all hurt. And Tricia Binford got through that season, and they made a run at it. I mean, they were in the semifinals last year. They finished 4th, even though they had more injury bad luck than I've ever seen. You bring all that back, you bring in Esmeralda Morales, and I just think they have a chance to be a really special team. On the men's side, I voted for Montana just because they have the most returners, but I think it's so wide open with all these new players and so many new roster complexions throughout the league. We really just won't know. It's going to take till February until these teams really coalesce. They really start working the ball around and playing together. And look at what happened last year. I mean, Montana State was up and down all year long. But then they coalesced and they played so well down the stretch. And then they had one of the great tournament runs we have ever seen. So that's what it's going to take. Who comes together at the end? Who plays down the stretch? Travis DeCure has proven he can get his team to do that at Montana. Matt Logie, same thing at Montana State. And I think there's a couple other coaches like Eric Duft at Weber and Steve Smiley at Northern Colorado that have proven that as well. So who can get their team to come together? Even though I voted for Montana, I think the men's side is wide open.
Krista, Coulter, less than 5 months, and we will see who is crowned a new champion up in Boise. Can't wait to see you both at that tournament. Still to come, what can fans expect from our championship week? Our friends from Visit Boise stop by to share all the city has to offer.
Yeah, definitely. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye.
All right. Thanks. All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Welcome back to Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson. Our tournament is in Boise every year, so who better to have on the show than someone from Visit Boise, Lucas Gebhardt. The tournament has been in Boise since 2019. What impact does the Big Sky Basketball Tournament have on the city of Boise?
We think it's about a $6.5 million total economic impact to the city. And so that what we mean by that is all the hotel spending, all of the money that's spent at restaurants and shops and ticket sales and things like that. We think about 13,000 people or so go to the tournament. That includes local fans as well as fans that are traveling to Boise. And we think about 4,300 fans or so travel to Boise to watch this tournament from the various Big Sky markets. So it definitely has a huge impact for the city, and we're excited to have it once again in 25.
For those who have not been to Boise, like myself, what kinds of things can they expect to do there outside of the tournament?
The cool part about our tournament is all the fans can stay in our downtown hotels and be walking distance from the game. So if you fly, you don't have to rent a car. Our airport's 7 minutes. Our downtown is 7 minutes away from our airport. We have tons of great outdoor recreation activities. We have a 30-mile long bike trail that runs along our river, both sides of our river. We also have tons of hot springs that are within a couple hours drive of Boise. Some are under an hour from Boise. We have a great wine country that's about 45 minutes outside of downtown as well. So Idaho's got some really underrated wine that we definitely want people to check out if they end up coming here. We were rated by National Geographic as one of the best in the world destinations to visit in 2025. So that's something that we just got awarded. We're pretty excited about that. So we got lots of things to do here, whether it's our great restaurant scene or outdoor recreation or just the walkable and accessibility to all the things to do in our downtown.
One of the big things that people want to know when they go to a new city is, where are some of the restaurants that I must try?
Some of the best restaurants in town are some of our Basque restaurants. We have an entire block in our downtown that's dedicated to that Basque culture and that Basque heritage. We also have a restaurant in downtown called Kin that their chef just won a James Beard Award. That's the first James Beard Award that any restaurant or chef in our city has won. So that's something else that we're pretty excited about.
I can't wait to get up there and experience Boise in a few months for myself. And I appreciate you taking time to put a spotlight on your city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for previewing the season with me on Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off presented by Idaho Central Credit Union. I'm your host, Megan Robinson, and I can't wait to see you all in Boise in March.